Well, that was unexpected. Well, not really. It was rumored for a while. The Destructors champion, in the name of Logan Sargeant, costing Williams 1.7 million in the most recent crash, has been said goodbye to. Adios is the word for Logan Sargeant. I think this is coming for a while. But I think the more interesting part is it is Colapinto, the Senna lookalike, who's been promoted to F1 mid-season amidst his first F2 campaign. Oh, and if you guys want to stick around, we'll talk about the new FIA rule enforcement about how drivers are not supposed to criticize steward decisions, and if they do, they're going to get penalized. Let's get into how Colapinto became an F1 driver. Welcome to the channel, you lovely people. My name's Lucky. You know why you guys are here. We're here to talk about the sport that you and I love. Logan Sargeant has been sacked, said goodbye to. Let's talk about how we've arrived at this decision and potential suitors who could have stepped into that seat, but who we've ended up with. To arrive at this decision, we should talk about the team principal, jamesvowles. He's probably going to be one of the best team principals that the sport has ever seen. But that said, over the course of the 2023 season, there was so much pressure and rumors that Logan Sargeant is underperforming and they should drop him. But no, he was being a truly, I think, nice person. He gave Logan Sargeant a second chance, supported him, pushed him, and was really putting an arm around his shoulder. Come 2024, the form didn't change. He was, I think I ranked him bottom of the pile anyway. He's not been great against Alex Albon. I mean, not great is an understatement. Alex Albon has washed him across both qualifying and races, right? One of the three drivers who hadn't scored any points. And I think the biggest problem probably is also the fact that he's consistently gone and crashed the car. And with Williams at its current stage, I don't think is a team that is able to absorb costs of above $1 million, 2 million, and I think overall 3 million starting for this year so far. So I think jamesvowles has been supportive, but there would probably come a point that this is not a beneficial relationship for him. Looking into 2025, probably wants to understand the trajectory of the car, for which he needs a safe pair of hands and at least a driver who's able to give the team the right amount of data so that when the likes of a Sainz comes in next year, they've maximized the opportunity to create the best car they can within the resources they have and the time parameters they have leading up to 2025, right? So he's also spoken about how the procedures of Williams have changed from an Excel spreadsheet to actually implementing software to drive things and improve things, secured a decent amount of investment. But if the outcome with the drivers, or in this case, a single driver, is always going to be a crash, no points, and usually bad publicity, I think it's about time that that driver would have been replaced. So I think the straw that broke the camel's back is the crash at Zandvoort. I think it was costed about 1.7 million to the team, right? So that's jamesvowles, how he supported Logan, but there was no change, but ultimately the hand was forced. But then comes the question of who could have been replacements for the Logan Sargeant seat, right? I think majority of us would have thought that it's going to be either Liam Lawson or Mick Schumacher. Liam Lawson, I think he's got a great track record. When he stepped into Ricciardo's seat last year, when Ricciardo had the accident, I think he stood toe-to-toe with Tsunoda, whereas Ricciardo has largely failed this year. Out of the 3 or 4 races, he scored points, he qualified well. I think he stands for the caliber, right? Probably the problem there is that Red Bull might want to pull back Liam Lawson if Perez doesn't turn things around, especially after the street tracks that are coming up, right? I think Baku and Singapore, where Perez is supposed to be really good at, right? So which would introduce another level of complexity and a lack of continuity for the team. On top of that, I also think that you'd probably have to pay a lot more for a loan from Red Bull than promoting within. And then probably the second other choice is Mick Schumacher. But honestly, I don't foresee a bright future for Mick, because his career so far, especially with has been very much tainted by crashes as well. He was a very expensive driver, and one of the reasons that Günther got rid of him as well, right? Yes, he is the reserve driver, but then Jamesvowles has worked at Ferrari. He probably knows the ins and outs of a high-functioning team as Mercedes more than Mick. So I don't necessarily see that it's a step up from Logan. It's almost an equivalent choice, right? So I think with those two things, what was the next best thing to actually do? Promote within, right? So Colapinto is a Williams Academy driver, which I think is also commendable, and kudos to Jamesvowles as a principal, because he ultimately made the decision of promoting within. Whereas usually a team such as Williams, where it's also customer teams to Mercedes, has been relatively, let's say, swayed or pressured to try drivers before they went into Mercedes, like George Russell, for instance, right? So they don't have this sister or junior team relationship like Red Bull and RB or VCARB has, but relatively they've leveraged Williams in that form or fashion, right? But I think in this instance, they're breaking that mold, promoting within, bringing and giving another rookie an opportunity to show what they're capable of in a F1 seat. So all in all, I think exciting times to come, especially given that there's new blood in the grid mid-season. I think majority of us would have thought that the mid-season change would have been Perez. However, well, we've got one, right? Which used to be very uncommon over the course of the last decade, but I think we've seen fair few from Red Bull and now from Williams. So good luck to Colapinto, and we look forward to him racing in the Temple of Speed. Oh, but that's it. Oh, we need to chat a little bit about Ben Sulayem's enforcement of the rule to penalize drivers who criticize stewards. Honestly, I think this is just unnecessary twists and turns for the sport, right? I think stewards should undergo criticism, primarily for two particular reasons. The stewards are judges of a racing incident, which means that they do not necessarily know how a racing driver would have made a decision in the cockpit, which means that they will only be able to make decisions based on rules and the footage they have access to them, and they wouldn't be able to live the instance there. But if there's no criticism, which would also mean that just unfair decisions would go unanswered or unquestioned, which I don't think is the way the sport should operate, right? Like the first thing that always comes to my mind is 2021 Abu Dhabi or 2021 Brazil, right? Like, can you push someone off? Did they follow the right procedures with the safety car? Like, I think these are unnecessary things, sometimes almost targeted at individual high-profile drivers who are well outspoken and who promote inclusivity and diversity. Whereas from an F1's perspective, or FIA's perspective rather, these topics don't even come to the forefront. So what do they want to do? Try and quieten or reduce the voices of certain characters that almost transcends the sport. Yes, I am talking about Lewis. Yeah, so that's it. I'm not in favor of not being able to challenge and criticize stewards' decisions. They should be, and they should potentially be reevaluated. That's it for this one. Thank you very much for listening. If you guys like this content, smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and see you on the next one. Peace. Ciao.